We're moving, right, Ralph? You see what's going on here? Welcome back, Adam. Morning. We are on 49A2, 49A, Memtet Amarav. We've been learning about the pouring of the Nisuch Hayayin, the Nisuch Hamayim. There was the pouring of the water on the Mizbeach during the holiday of Sukkot. There was a pouring. What did you say? And that's what Simchat Beit Shuvah. We're going to be learning all about it coming up soon. Get ready. We're going to be learning about the special Simchat Beit Shuvah that they had in the Beit HaMikdash, the great rejoicing that they had in the Beit HaMikdash. And the Mishnah spoke about that there was this shitin, not the Mishnah. The Gemara spoke about that there was this hole in the ground. That one opinion held that this hole in the ground was there from Sheshet to Mei Breshit, that was there from the time of creation. And this hole in the ground is where the water from the altar drained into. Underneath, and when they built the Mizbeach, according to this opinion, it was built on top of this hole, and it went all the way down. According to this one opinion, it went all the way down to the depths. That's what the Gemara said, all the way down. Who knows how many thousands of feet? Who knows how many that it went all the way down? That was the opinion of the Gemara. Now, remember, good morning, Mark.
Rabbi.
Remember, we had the wine also poured on the Mizbeach. And comes the Gemara, and the wine, the general Korbanot had wine libations with it, nisko. Right, and the wine and the water, right, and because they came out, when they came out of the bowl, they made it that the whole of the wine bowl on the bottom was thicker than the whole of the water, and therefore they would come out simultaneously because as you know, wine is thicker than water, and if it would be the same size hole, then the water would come out much faster. But they wanted them to come out at the same time. And the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Elazar bar Sadok, warning. Rabbi Elazar bar Sadok says, Tanya, we went to the Breita. Lu katon haya bin kevesh lamizbeach. He understands there was a small space between the ramp and the altar. As we said, the altar had a ramp going up to the altar, the mizbeach, the long ramp. And this ramp, there was a space between the ramp and the altar, a little space. There's a question how much space exactly there was, but this space, obviously, this space, like we saw, that the wine and the water were situated, the bowls were right when you got the top of the ramp, you made a left turn right over there. We learned was the bowls, and therefore, if you look at the picture on 49A1, you'll see a nice picture. So you see the main ramp. So when you get up to the top, you see there's make a little left. That was the area where there was the bowls, and the wine and the water came down when it came out of the bowl. It came down. According to this opinion, it wasn't that there was this shitin, this hole in the ground that it went down and it went all the way down. Rather, this opinion holds that the wine and the water fell between there was a space between the ramp. In the picture of 49A1, there is no space between the ramp and the top, and call it the altar top, the roof of the Mizbeach. There was no space. But this opinion holds that there actually was a little space, that a little gap, exactly, where the water and the wine would fall in on that gap. Now, and right, and not go down the ramp, exactly. It would fall down in that space. And what happened was wine. So what happened with the wine the wine, it's not like water that might disintegrate or whatever would happen to water. It congealed. So over a period of time, there was this thick, like a cake, like a fig cake, that formed from the wine. And the Gemara uses the language every 70 years. It could be an expression of 70 years. It means after many years, they would send a Cohen, one of David Cohen's grandchildren, to go down to pull out, to clean up that in order that it should be able to continue to go down. Because if you don't clean it up, then it's just gonna be a backup. It'll be stuff. It'll be stuff. Say it again. So the theory going all the way down. This opinion disagrees with that opinion. See, if you look at note 18, right? If you look, he says, so they talk about the opinion. He says, Rabbi Yochanan, he said that we quoted, talks about the Shittim existing from creation. Let's say that's number 18, right? So this Rabbi Elazar, see, this Tana does not, in note number 19, excuse me, does not subscribe to the view that the Shittim extended all the way to the depths. Good morning. He holds it did not go all the way to the depths. So the Gemara says, so there was this Lu Katan. We welcome Nathan back. We are on 49a. So this Lu Katan, there was a space between the ramp and the altar, according to this opinion. B'maravo shakevesh, on the western side, the western half of the ramp. If you look at the picture on 49a1, so the left side is the western side of the ramp, and there was this space over there. Va'achas l'shivim shana, once every 70 years, pirchei kuhuna yordim l'sham. The pirchei kuhuna, there's an organization called pirchei. Pirchei is the young boys. The young boys. The pirchei kuhuna is the young kohanim. They would send the young kohen to go down. Maybe he would stick his hand in between the space between the altar and the ramp, and he would go ahead and he would clean out the wine that congealed in that area. Say it again. The water was only poured on the holiday of Sukkot. And there's an argument in the Mishnah that was Simcha B'T Shoeva every day of Sukkot, and there's a question if Shmini Atzeret, did they actually also pour the water or not? Shmini Atzeret is a separate holiday, so some say they actually poured the water also on Shmini Atzeret. Some say they did not. So it's a question if they poured it for 7 days or 8 days. But wine was every day. Every day the korban, when they brought the daily korbanot and the afternoon korban. There's wine. Wine was every day. Wine was every day, and that's what when you hear v'niskehem chatzehin yelapah shlishatahin yel ha'ayil. That's nisko. When we talk about those are measurements of wine that are brought on the altar, and so according to this opinion that says that the wine and the water did not go down the shitin, this hole in the ground, all the way to the depths. Rather, there was a space that it went into. So they would send the young Kohanim once every 70 years, and Malaknin Sham Yain Karush. They would remove the wine that congealed over the years, but after years by being there in that space. Shadome Liguli Devela. The wine looked like pressed figs. And they had to burn the wine in the place of Kedusha, which Rashi says mean in a holy place in the courtyard, not outside the courtyard, outside the courtyard to be a place that's not holy. It doesn't have that holiness. But they treated this wine like other kachim, like a sacrifice itself. Exactly. Like let's say if you would have notar, if you would have something that was um, remained overnight, and yet Torah says don't leave it to the morning. So what do you do if it was left into the morning? You would have to go ahead and burn it also in the Mokum Kodosh, in a holy place. And the Gemara says, Shenema, what is the source that you have to go ahead and burn this wine that was congealed in a holy place? Because the Pasuk says, regarding the wine libation of the korban tamid, of the daily offering, it says, V'nisko revi'et ahin lakeves echad, bakodesh haseich, you go ahead and you pour the wine in a holy place on the mizbeach, on the altar. Nesech shecha laHashem. It's a libation. It's a pouring of shecha. It's wine that has the ability to intoxicate to Hashem. That's the pouring that you do to Hashem. But the pasuk refers to the wine as kodesh, and the Gemara says, "Kishem." Now we're turning the page on 49b. Kishem sheni suchu b'kedusha, just like the pouring was done in a place of holiness, the pouring was done on the mizbeach. Kach sreifato b'kedusha. So too, the burning of it also has to be done where? In a holy place. The Gemara is going to ask, where do you see the burning has to be in a holy place? You just showed me. The pasuk only says, "Bakodesh haseich." In a holy place, you pour the wine. Nesach shechal Hashem. Where do you see the burning has to also be in a holy place?
Once it's kodesh before it, left, still do something kodesh with it.
Okay, but the Gemara doesn't bring that as. I mean, you're saying because of the fact that it was kodesh once,
yeah.
But the Gemara is still bringing a source for it. I mean, the Gemara didn't know that it was holy. The Gemara knew the whole time that it's holy. So you shouldn't have to come bring a special source. So the Gemara says, "My mashma." Where do we see in the pasuk that it's talking about burning? Maybe it's only talking about the pouring of the wine has to be done in a holy place. So the Gemara says the answer. Amar Rava. Rava says, when the Gemara says Kodesh, we have a Gezerah Shavet. There's another place where it says Kodesh, and that Kodesh means in the holy place. That means also in the holy place. Where is Amar Rava? Asi Kodesh Kodesh. We learn from the Gezerah Shavet. It says Kodesh over Ksiv Hacha Bakodesh. It says over here, you have to go ahead and pour it on the mizbeach, the wine. Bakodesh Haseich Nesech. You pour in a holy place. It's a Bakodesh Haseich. You put the comment over there. Bakodesh Haseich. You go ahead and you what? Morning mark. You pour it in a holy place. Nesech Sheichal Hashem. Ksiv Hatam. And when it comes to Kodshim, holy korbanot, by offerings, that were left overnight, the Torah says don't leave it overnight, and you left it to the morning. What does this pasuk say? V'saravta et hanota beish. You have to burn what's left over in fire. Lo yeyachel. You can't eat it. Ki kodeshu, because it's kodesh. So the pasuk says the word kodesh over there when it refers to burning. So also over here, when it says kodesh, also it's referring to the burning. That means you have to go ahead and burn the leftover, just like over there, when it's left over the kachim that's left over, the Torah refers to it, it's kodesh. And it has to be burnt in a place of holiness. So too, over here, we have to go ahead and burn it in a holy place. So the comparison to Kachim, Kodesh, Kodesh, and over there the Kodesh by the leftover has to be burnt in a holy place. So too over here has to be burnt in a holy place. Now, so the Gemara says, Keman Azlaha. Who the following we're on 49b1. Now, Kaman Azla had the following that we learned. Nisachim betchila mo'elim bahem. The nisachim, the wine, when they became holy, when the wine, let's say you put the wine in the vessel, and then you put it in the vessel, and then but it's in the kli sharei, and then you go ahead and you designated the wine for the purpose of what? Of pouring on the mizbeach. Just like when you designate an animal, you say this animal is holy. So there's something called mi'ilah. What's mi'ilah? Mi'ilah is when you go ahead and you take something that was sanctified, consecrated, and you use it for personal use. You go ahead and you take an animal you said hariz olah. You said this animal is for a korban. Now it has sanctity on the animal. There's certain laws that now go on to the animal. Now it belongs to Kegdesh. And now in a certain sense, it doesn't belong to me anymore. I got a responsibility to bring it to the Beit HaMikdash. And if I go in and I use it for my personal use, I have violated the sin, and it's called mi'ilah. It's a form of stealing, but it's called stealing from Hashem. So this opinion says the nisachim, the wine that was consecrated, put into the vessel, b'tchila mo'elim behem, that until you poured it on the mizbeach, it's subject to the laws of mi'ilah. If I go and I use that wine for personal use, that would be, and I drank it, I now violated the violation. I stole from Hegdesh, and I got to bring. There's a whole thing Torah talks about. We have to bring a korban mi'ilah, asham mi'ilah. I got to bring an offering. I got a lot of atonement to do for this act of using the wine for personal use.
Mark's question here, that post the pouring of the wine, which was your obligation, does your not mi'ilah obligation continue?
Exactly. Is there going to be mi'ilah? Would it be subject to this law of mi'ilah or not? Would it be subject after you poured it on the mizbeach and it's left over? So the Gemara says, now, you told me a moment ago that even after you poured on the mizbeach and then it came down and it congealed, you still have the holiness that you have to go ahead and burn it. So that's what the Gemara is gonna connect the dots in a moment. Let's connect the dots, David. So nechasim betchila, in the beginning, mo'elim behem, it's subject to mi'ilah. By the way, there's a Masechta in Shas called mi'ilah. One of the tractates of the Shas Gemara is mi'ilah. Yordu shitin, once it went down to the shitin, ein mo'elim behem. So here it says, once it went down to the shitin, it went into this hole. It's not subject to mi'ilah. So now the Gemara, so that's very good. So this seems to be the opinion, not like the Rabbanan, because the Rabbanan said before that you can't get to it. Like Mark said, that the shitin went all the way down to the depths of the world, of the ground. And once it went into that hole, you can't get it. So this right there seems to be. So till now, the Gemara said that there's two opinions in the Gemara. One opinion is that underneath the mizbeach, underneath the altar, on the bottom of the altar, there was this hole in the ground, and the wine and the water went down and that went all the way down to the depth. So there's no break. There's nothing to stop it. But the last opinion we just said, that there was a space between the altar and the ramp, and the water and the wine collected there. So that opinion is not going with this idea that there's this hole in the ground that's going all the way to the depth. So the Gemara said, it seems this bright is like the latter, not the former. But like Mark said, the former opinion is there's nothing. How can you actually, you never get it. It goes all the way down. How can you tell me whether it's subject to mi'ilah, whether it's subject to violating by using personal use when it went down into the hole? It went down the hole, it's gone. As they say, kiss that ball goodbye. It's gone, right? If I could use that expression. So the Gemara says, So that's not. So the Gemara said, who does this opinion? It has to go. Lema Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. Maybe this right there seems to be in sync with Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok. He's the man that we started off today with, which understands the space between the altar and the mizbeach and the ramp. The Rabbanan, because if it's the opinion of the rabbis, Hanachatulahu, it's already all the way down in the depth, so you can't tell me whether if you go down there, you want to tell me if it's subject to Mila, who's making that as going all the way down to see it. The Gemara says, no, not necessarily. You know what? Listen to this, Mark. What about if you put something that a person hung something there you put something in that hole before that it should not go down thousands of feet. You put something down. Now the question is, you have to know how. I mean, it's down to not let it go down, right? I feel the Tamer Rabbanan, even if you say it's a Rabbanan, b'di'iklet, maybe it's a situation that you caught the wine in the air when it was over before it went down in the ear of the shitin, in the ear of the hole that's in the ground before it went down all the way to the depths. So that's what the Gemara suggests. So therefore, it's no proof against the rabbi's understanding of what happened with the wine and the water. No, so again, so the water, you poured it on the altar, and then it went down, but instead of it going all the way down, and here you have you put it 10 feet into the ground, you put some sort of net to catch or something to catch the wine that was in there. Now, if I caught the wine to hold it, that it shouldn't go all the way down, is it subject to mi'ilah? Is it subject to that violation at this point? And this opinion says, no, it's not subject. Once it went into that started going to that pit, it's not subject to mi'ilah. V'ikedi amri, others say, there's a different version in the Gemara. Lema, the Gemara says, let us suggest that Rabbanan, that this opinion that says it's not subject to mi'ilah, it's not subject to the violation of treachery, of using personal use, the holy stuff, that's the Rabbanan, because according to Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok, who require you to burn it in a holy place to retain the holiness. If you retain the holiness, it should be subject to the violation of mi'ilah, of using consecrated items for personal use. So the fact that this right there says it's not subject to mi'ilah seems to be going against the opinion that says that you have to burn it in a holy place, right? We opened up today that the Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok says that if the pouring of the wine on the altar and it congealed after many years, you would finally collect and pick up that wine. You have to burn that wine in a holy place in the courtyard, not outside the courtyard. So if it's subject to holiness, you would think it's still subject to mi'ilah. So the Gemara says, "Lema Rabbanan v'lo Rabbi Elazar tzadok." It's not Rabbi Elazar tzadok. The Rabbi Elazar, but akati b'kedushotayu kaimi. It's remained in the status of holiness, and you're not. If it's holy, you can't have benefit. So why isn't there? Why isn't subject to mi'ilah? If it's, and therefore it would seem it should be. It's not going with his opinion. It's going with the opinion that it's. No, that we're saying it goes all the way down. Because if there's according to the opinion that says, again, according to the opinion that says that there's a gap between the two, that opinion says, and then you send the Kohen down, the young Kohen, every so often, every 7 years to pick out that wine. He says you have to burn it in a holy place to retain holiness. To retain holiness, to burn the dry wine. Because if it retained the holiness, Adam, so why don't you have to? Why isn't it subject to the violation of treachery of using holy things for personal use, and you should have to bring a korban? So it's a proof. It's like the Rabbanan that say, no, Rabbanan never said that you have to burn it in a holy place. He never said that. So the Gemara says no proof against Rabbi Elazar. I feel it, because he could say, you could say the following. You could say it could be holy, but not subject to Mila. Why? Why is that possible? Because once the mitzvah is done, once the mitzvah is complete, it's not subject to Mila. Mila is that you go ahead and you're something that's ready to do the mitzvah. You designate an animal for a korban, and you got to bring the korban. So if you didn't bring the korban yet, and you go ahead and use it for personal use, that's Mila. But if you did the work, you did it. It's done. You did what you needed to do. What do you need to do? You got to pour it on the mizbeach. You did the deal. What you needed to do. Now to say that after the job was done, that once the job was done, it's not subject to milah. I would think the job is to see. It's interesting. The language of the Breita is it went down into the shitin. It's a good question. Why does it have to go down? It went part of the whole. Why don't you just have to just pour it on the altar? I mean, why isn't that? So it's not clear to me. Some amount, a certain amount. For some, that's what it sounds like. Even though it's hard to understand that. What about if it didn't go into the sheet then? It just went on the altar and it went somewhere else. It went off a different. You say he didn't fulfill the mitzvah. I would think the mitzvah is to pour on the altar. So that's not clear to me. But the Gemara is saying this concept, and it's a very interesting concept. You can understand that something where it's supposed to be used for holiness, and now you use it for private use, right? That's a big problem. But once it was done, you already did it already. What's the difference? Now you still maybe because it was holy, you still can't use it. It's still subject to avoid. You can't use it, but for the Torah to tell us to have the laws that you actually will have the level of atonement that you would need when it was before the mitzvah was done, it's a different level. So therefore, you still can't use it for personal use, but it will not, something you can't do, but it will not incur all the laws of Mi'ilah. We're not saying it's over. We're not saying, it's not holy anymore. Like it says, the Shivri Luchot, the tablets that were broken were still holy. Sometimes even though it's it's still holy. So the opinion says it's still holy, but the holiness is it's not holy enough to be subject to all the laws of Milah. It's still holy. So that's what the Gemara says. Filu temer Abelazar, ein lecha davar shenaseh mitzvato u'mo'olam bo. We are now on, we're 49, 49B, B1 on the right bottom, from the right. I feel him, Rabbi Lazar. Ein lecha davar. There's nothing shenaseh mitzvato u'mo'olam bo. That once the mitzvah is done, it's not going to be subject to the laws of Mi'ilah. So it's interesting that Rashi uses the language shenaseh mitzvah nisucho hu ikar. The main mitzvah is the pouring. Why does Rashi say the main mitzvah is the pouring? What does it say that is the mitzvah? It's interesting that it might be something else besides the pouring. Going down. It's different because a lulav technically, very good. Technically, a lulav doesn't have the level of holiness. It's not like, and therefore you could technically you could, if you could, dispose of the lulav in any respectable way. That's because of the honor for the mitzvah that was done. Correct, but it's not hekdesh. It's not like a sefer, but you have to genizah. An old sefer. If this would be old and all ruined, worn out, I can't. I have to put it into genizah, right? I have to put it. It has to be buried. But this actually has kedusha. Morning. This is like a sefer in that sense. It has holiness. What do you say? No, lulav is not, doesn't have the holiness. It is true, Nathan. All the mitzvahs are very similar thing. When it's designated for the mitzvah, I can't just use it use it for something else and not and ruin it from the mitzvah.
book level and then lulav level.
Right. Which lulav will be similar to tzitzit, halid, was also the same thing. Technically, many opinions hold. So you don't need geniza. According to most, I mean, according to Rabbi Feinstein, I can't tell you about all the rabbis. Exactly. And you know what? Some people would use it tzitzit, that when they weren't good anymore, they would use it as bookmarks, foreign marks. They would put the tzitzit as, because that's the idea that once you did the mitzvah, do another mitzvah. That's why very common custom is that you use the lulav to burn the chametz. What's the idea? Once you did a mitzvah, that's the idea, do another mitzvah. You're burning the lulav, but it doesn't have, you don't burn, you wouldn't burn a sefer chas v'shalom. You wouldn't burn a holy book. You never would burn this, but you could burn the lulav because doesn't have that sanctity. Yes, David, you want? Discard it in a respectful way. You put it in a nice bag or something. Right. Right. But the geniza is if a holy sefer. They bury some people. Right. They either they bury it with the body, or they have a special area that they just dig in the ground. You have a lot of space. Good morning, and they just and they dig in and they bury it. Now, right.
Like they found hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years and thousands of books. They're still going through. Interesting. It was a dry
Okay. So let's continue in the Gemara. The Gemara continues. Amar Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish said, the time, now we're turning to page 49b2. When you pour the wine on the mizbeach, what do? Something very interesting. Pokikin et hashitin. The hole that's in the ground that the wine should go to. What do? So here we're talking about the hole that's on top of the mizbeach. So here we're talking about not the hole in the ground, the hole that's again. You poured it went from the bowl, then on the top of which is on top of the mizbeach, and then there was a hole from the bowl. Hole went into another hole, and then it drained down. So we're saying now you're going to fill up. I have a stopper. It's interesting. The other day, I went to the store. I just thought it was a little cute that I have on me a stopper. You got not a real stopper, it's a hair collector. The idea is they put a stopper on top of the mizbeach so the wine should flow on top as if it's full. It's satiated. The wine when they poured it on the mizbeach, at the time that they poured it, they wanted it to collect. They wanted to show as if they did it that it's full. It should show like there's so much wine. It's like overflowing. It's not going down. Pokikin es hashitin. They would go ahead and put a stopper on that hole. L'kaya mashenema, because the pasuk says bakodesh haseich. It says, I want you to pour the wine on the holy place, on the altar. Nesech shecha l'Hashem. It should be a pouring of shecha. Shecha is like the idea of drunkenness. So usually we'll translate shecha is that the wine should be a certain type of wine that has the ability to intoxicate. But we're going to translate it over here. So my mash. But where does this pasuk? I'm going to explain it now in a moment. What does it imply that it has to be, overflowing on the top of the altar? It should look like that. The word shecha, which is intoxicating, it means like shikrut. Someone was drunk. What do you call a drunken person? A shikar. Someone is shecha loshen shetiyah, the language of drinking, loshen sviyah, Especially someone's full, he's overloaded. When you're drunk, it means you're overloaded. And lashon shikrut, it actually means you're drunk. So therefore, you need to put a hole on, stop the hole on top of the altar, as to show as if the altar, which is drank and is satiated and is full. So that's the reason for the pouring on for closing the thing on the mizbeach. It's like showing you're doing like the mitzvah. Look how it's like so much, as if you put so much wine. The mizbeach is so full. That's the idea. We'll continue tomorrow. I want to wish everyone a great day. We should have the mizbeach back, and we should be seeing this pouring of the wine on the mizbeach. So the kohanim were pretty busy, closing the hole every day, and then unstopping it. Have a great day. Good morning.